How does Destiny load in your items or those random people in your vicinity staying there AFK? How does Blitz.gg, even when shut off, keep track of your headshot percentage in Valorant? Like, I gotta keep that to myself. So how do they do it? Well, with REST API. What is a REST API? Well, a REST API is an API resting on a server, which an external program can communicate with through links. These links can vary with not only its content, but also its request methods such as get, post, put, and delete. Just by searching on the internet, you by default use the get request method. These methods all do the same, however, they all play a part when handling the backend for API servers such as Bungie's, which we'll go into more detail later. So how do you use API? Well, API can vary from the service that you use, but for this video, we will use Bungie's API. And the best way to start is with Destiny Dev's GitHub.io, links in the description. This website gives a basic tutorial how to get started with the different programming languages such as PHP, Python, JavaScript, and bungie-net.github.io is another site which has a list of many of Bungie's endpoints, which are the links that we will be using. The page also shows us what request methods to use, as the Bungie's API will interpret same endpoints differently with the chosen request method as mentioned earlier. For example, the post request method would post something to the server like you equipping a different armor piece or weapon. However, let's say you would use a request method such as get that may retrieve that item information or weapon information instead of equipping it. These request methods in layman terms could be something like Bungie give me my Le Monarch. Give would then signify the request method get, and Bungie would be the root API, bungie.net/platform, and my Le Monarch would be the endpoint for getting such an item. This part is more specifically directed at Destiny's API, where we will speak about how Bungie sends you the responses. To start off, Bungie knows what they're making. They're making a multiplayer game, and so good internet connectivity is important. And so the less packets they have to send over the network, the better the average connectivity will be. They do this through their manifest file and components. Components, first of all, are numbers that you send as queries in the endpoint. This means that if the game needed a lot of data about a certain item, it can attain such, but it can also acquire the minimal amount of data about that object, meaning less packages sent to the player. Again, better connectivity. I could also track this with Wireshark, but I'm not going to do that because I would show my IP, which is bad. No doxing here. Allowed? No. And this part is more due to performance for the fact that if all static data about an item would be fetched from Bungie's server, not only would it take a long time for all those requests to go through, and not to mention the packets and the size of them. Therefore, for optimization, all items, stats, perks, and etc. in Destiny that have static data that does not change unless Bungie themselves change it are stored in an SQLite database file that the game uses and other websites such as DIM. This file stores the data in JSON format and has several tables such as Destiny inventory item definition or Destiny stat definition, and so on. This is further explained by Alan H., who explained the huge pros of doing something like this, and the amount of requests you would need to go through with this, and the amount of how much extra time it would lead to. For this example, I've made a table which does not accurately describe, of course, how Bungie has their database about weapons. However, they can give a brief look into how it may look and how it may work and how we can then understand what is going on in the back end and how the REST API sends us information. So in this case, we have static stat, static item, and static perk. These are, once again, those static definitions from the Destiny Manifest file. This, however, does not include the dynamic data such as what perks are active and what perks are not. This is why we have the dynamic item table, which has the item power level, but it's also linked to the dynamic perk and dynamic stats, which dynamic stats show the value of the stat, and then therefore also leads to the static ID. It's therefore those middle tables in between the static items. So, enough talking. How do we use such extravagant technology? This phenomenon is mostly due to the fact that Bungie don't want people to burn their servers by doing many requests at any moment in time. To get the API key, we will have to head over to Bungie's developer portal. From there, we can create an app and call it what we want. We then gather the API key and set the origin header as star, as it sometimes can cause problems if you don't. Now it's time to do some coding. Where in this example, I am doing it with Python Flask as the backend and native HTML, CSS, and JavaScript as the front end. From there, I use endpoints to get the information about my Bungie account all the way till my character and their weapons and select items along with their stats and perks. We can then route this to the front end, and with some CSS, it looks a bit like this. As you can see on the web page, you can see an image of the weapon, its name and its light level. You can also see the perks and what the name of the perk is. And if the card is pressed, then you can see a bigger image of the weapon and its stats. In this case, of course, we're not using Auth2, which means that we don't have permissions for certain transactions, such as moving weapons in player's inventory. Which, thank cybersecurity for that. I wouldn't want a random guy griefing me mid-game, trying to swap out my newer weapons out with older weapons that are way lower light level. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this, like the video. If you believe the video was terrible, dislike it immediately. Don't hesitate. If you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button and the bell next to it. Feedback at the moment for this video is very important, as it may determine where I will continue. And here's the video that I said I was going to make 8 months ago. Bye.